fucking metronome. Piece of dirty dog shit. What's up, you guys? It's your boy, Corey Barker, aka Young Suicidal. I did a bunch of reading today. I lost a bunch of my shit, so I'm a little bit on the pissed off side, so I have to redo the first part of a story I read, so fun. I'm a little bit more than pissed off, so if I stutter and throw something across the room and you hear a loud smash, don't be alarmed. Nobody was harmed besides my fucking fractured sanity. Credited to Michael Whitehouse. Bedtime is supposed to be a happy event for a tired child. For me, it was terrifying. While some children might complain about being put to bed before they finish watching a film or playing their favorite video game, when I was a child, nighttime was something to truly fear. Somewhere in the back of my mind, it still is. As someone who's trained in the sciences, I cannot prove that what happened to me was objectively real, but I can swear that what I had experienced back then was genuine horror. A fear which in my life, I'm glad to say, has never been equaled. I will relate it to you all now as best I can. Make of it what you will, but I'll be glad to just get it off my chest. I can't remember exactly when it started, but my apprehension towards falling asleep seemed to correspond with my being moved into a room of my own. I was 8 years old at the time, and until then, I'd shared a room quite happily with my older brother. As is perfectly understandable for a boy 5 years my senior, my brother eventually wished for a room of his own, and as a result, I was given the room at the back of the house. It was a small, narrow, yet oddly elongated room, large enough for a bed and a couple chests of drawers, but not much else. I couldn't really complain, because even at that age, I understood that we didn't have a large house, and I had no real cause to be disappointed, as my family was both loving and caring. It was a happy childhood during the day. A solitary window looked out onto the back garden. Nothing out of the ordinary. But even during the day... Even during the day, the light which crept into that room seemed almost hesitant. As my brother was given a new bed, I was given the bunk beds which we used to share. While I was upset about sleeping on my own, I was excited at the thought of being able to sleep in the top bunk, which seemed far more adventurous to me. Alright. From the very first night, I remember a strange feeling of unease creeping slowly from the back of my mind. I lay on the top bunk, staring down at my action figures and cars strewn across the green-blue carpet. As imaginary battles and adventures took place between the toys on the floor, I couldn't help but feel that my eyes were being drawn slowly towards the bottom bunk, as if something was moving in the corner of my eye, something which did not wish to be seen. The bunk was empty, impeccably made, with a dark blue blanket tucked in neatly, partially covering two rather bland white pillows. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was a child, and the noise slipping under my door from my parents' television bathed me in a warm sense of safety and well-being. I fell asleep. When you awaken from a deep sleep to something moving or stirring, it can take a few minutes for you to truly understand what is happening. Oh, the fog of sleep hangs over your eyes and ears, even when lucid. Something was moving. There was no doubt about that. First, I wasn't sure what it was. Everything was dark, almost pitch black. But there was enough light creeping in from the outside to outline the narrowly suffocating room. Two thoughts appeared in my mind almost simultaneously. The first being that my parents were in bed, because the rest of the house lay both in darkness and silence. The second turned to the noise. a noise which had obviously awoken me. Fuck. As the last cobwebs of sleep withered from my mind, the noise took on a more familiar form. Sometimes the simplest of sounds can be the most unnerving. A cold wind whistling through a tree outside, a neighbor's footsteps uncomfortably close, or in this case, the simple sound of bed sheets rustling in the dark. That was it. Sheets rustling in the dark, as if some disturbed sleeper was attempting to get all too comfortable in the bottom bunk. I lay there in disbelief, thinking that the noise was either my imagination or perhaps just my pet cat finding somewhere comfortable to spend the night. It was then that I noticed my door, shut as it had been as I'd fallen asleep. Perhaps my mom had come in and checked on me, and then the cat snuck in to my room then. Yes, must have been it. I turned to face the wall, closing my eyes in the vain hope I could fall back asleep. As I moved, the rustling noise from underneath me ceased. I thought that I must have disturbed my cat, but quickly I realized that the visitor in the bottom bunk was much less mundane than my pet trying to sleep, and much more sinister. Fuck. All right. As if alerted to and disgruntled by my presence, the disturbed sleeper began to toss and turn violently, like a child having a temper tantrum in their bed. I could hear the sheets twist and turn with increasing ferocity. Fear then gripped me. Not like the subtle sense of unease I had experienced earlier, but now potent, terrifying. My heart raced as my eyes panicked, scanning the room. Scanning the almost impenetrable darkness. I let out a cry. As most boys do, I instinctively shouted out to my mother. I could hear something stir on the other side of the house, but as I began to breathe a sigh of relief that my parents were coming to save me, the bunk beds suddenly started to shake violently, as if gripped by an earthquake, scraping against the wall. I could hear the sheets below thrashing and pounding, as if tormented by malice. I didn't want to jump down to safety, as I feared the thing in the bottom bunk would reach out and grab me, pulling me into the darkness. So I stayed there, white-knuckled, clenching my own blanket like a shroud of protection. The wait seemed like eternity. The door finally and thankfully burst open, and I lay bathed in light, while the bottom bunk, the resting place of my unwanted visitor, lay empty and peaceful. I cried out, and my mother consoled me. Tears of fear followed by relief streamed down my face. Yet through all of the horror and relief, I did not tell her why I was so upset. I can't explain it, but it was as though whatever had been in that bunk would return if I even so much as spoke of it or uttered a single syllable of its existence. Whether that was the truth or not, I don't know. But as a child, I felt as if that unseen menace remained close, listening. My mother lay in the empty bunk, promising to stay there until morning. Eventually, my anxiety diminished. Tiredness pushed me back towards sleep, but I remained restless, waking several times momentarily to the sound of rustling sheets. Rustling bed sheets. I remember the next day wanting to be anywhere but in that narrow, suffocating room. It was a Saturday, and I played outside quite happily with my friends. Although our house was not large, we were enough to have a long, sloping garden in the back. We played there often, as much of it was overgrown, and we could hide in the bushes, climb in the huge sycamore tree which towered above all else, and easily imagine ourselves in the throes of a grand adventure in some untamed exotic land. As fun as it was, occasionally my eye would turn to that small window, ordinary, slight, and innocuous. But for me, that thin boundary was a looking glass into a strange, cold pocket of dread. Outside, the lush green surroundings of our garden, filled with the smiling faces of my friends, could not extinguish the creeping feeling clawing its way up my spine, each hair standing on end. The feeling of something in the room, watching me play, waiting for the night when I would be alone, eagerly filled with hate. So that's the end of part one of bedtime. I'm gonna start reading a bunch of other shit now, partially because I'm so fucking upset that my other shit fucking didn't save. I have a process I go through, and it's a stupid fucking process, but it helps me save space so I can easily download, or I can easily save shit from iMovie. Fuck everything. Fuck everything right now. I've never been this fucking upset in my life, except for when Lloyd was canceling my uploads to be a fucking douche, but I still love Lloyd after that. I love you, Lloyd. Margaret and Elena, are very close friends and talk with each other continuously, due to which Elena's seat was changed away from Margaret in her classroom. Both were upset. Suddenly, Miss Redcliffe came and announced a class test, which caused all the students to groan. As the test started, this doesn't make any fucking sense. Margaret and Elena are very close friends and talk with each other continuously, due to which Elena's seat was changed away from Margaret in her classroom. Both were upset. Suddenly, Miss Redcliffe came and announced a class test, which caused all the students to groan. As the test started, Elena realized that her pouch was with Margaret. She called her many times, but Margaret ignored her. Suddenly, Miss Redcliffe pointed at Elena and scolded her in front of the whole class, as she was very strict. After school, Margaret called Elena many times, but she refused to pick up the phone. After many calls, she finally picked up. Before she could say anything, Margaret started apologizing to her and said, "Don't get mad at me. Sorry, I was having a high fever, so I couldn't attend school today." Me and my mother live alone, or my mother and I, and suddenly the light went off, so we were alone now in a dark house. I was alone in my room, then I saw my mother waiting outside. She was trying to light a matchstick. I quickly went and hugged her as I was very scared. Suddenly I heard a voice coming from the outside, or from inside. "Sharon, it's dark outside. Come in, I got the matches and candle." These are so fucking retarded. Hide and seek. Terry and his sister Lynette were playing hide and seek, where Lynette was hiding and Terry was searching him. This was the first time they played hide and seek. Later, this became a routine game. Suddenly, the maid of the house started complaining about this to their father. But what could their father do? He was tired explaining his son that his sister was no more. She died in the first game by getting locked in the cupboard. And what could Terry do? He was also tired of explaining his father that he sees her every day. What the fuck? Yeah, blah. Fucking author's note. Kiss my dick. A little girl was sitting alone, weeping in her room. Her mother, passing by her, seeing her disturbed, and asked, "Honey, what's the matter?" "Mom, my best friend Eliza changed." Her mom quickly understood the matter. She knew Eliza and her daughter were very good friends. She smiled and said to her daughter, "Let's meet her." Her daughter becomes happy and says to her mother that she is in the coffin of a nearby graveyard. Wonderful. Wonderful little story. Bad grammar. Alright, that's it. I'm done. Peace. So this is continuing bedtime from where we left off a minute ago. It may sound strange to you, but by the time my parents ushered me back into that room for the night, I said nothing. I didn't protest. I didn't even make an excuse as to why I couldn't sleep there. I simply and sullenly walked into the room, climbed the few steps into the bunk, and then waited. As an adult, I'd be telling my experience. As an adult, I would be telling everybody about my fucking experience. But even at that age, I felt almost silly to be talking about something which I really had no evidence for. I'd be lying, however, if I said this was my primary reason. I still felt that this thing would be enraged if I so much as spoke of it. It's funny how certain words can remain hidden from your mind, no matter how blatant or obvious they are. One word that came to me that night lying there in the darkness alone, frightened, aware of a rotten change in the atmosphere, a thickening of the air as if something had displaced it. As I heard the first casual twist of the bedsheets below, the first anxious increase in my heartbeat at the realization that something was once again in the bottom bunk. That word, a word which had been sent into exile, fluttered and filtered through my consciousness, breaking free of all repression, gasping for air, screaming, etching, and carving itself into my mind. Ghost. As this thought came to me, I noticed that my unwelcome visitor had ceased moving. The bedsheets lay calm and dormant, but they'd been replaced by something far more hideous. A slow, rhythmic, rasping breath heaved and escaped from the thing below. I could imagine its chest rising and falling with each sordid, wheezing, and garbled breath. I shuddered and hoped beyond all that it would leave without occurrence. The house lay, as it had the previous night, in a thick blanket of darkness. Silence prevailed, all but for the unseen bunkmate. I lay there terrified, just wanting this thing to go, just to leave me alone. What did it want? Okay. Then something unmistakably chilling transpired. It moved. It moved in a way different from before. When it threw itself around in the bottom bunk, it seemed, unrestrained, without purpose, almost animalistic. This movement, however, was driven by awareness, with purpose, with a goal in mind. For that thing lying there in the darkness, that thing which seemed intent on terrorizing a young boy, calmly and nonchalantly sat up. Its labored breathing had become louder, as now only a mattress and a few flimsy wooden slats separated my body from the unearthly breathing below. I lay there, my eyes filled with tears, a fear which mere words cannot relate to you or anyone else coursed through my veins. Fuck. I would not have believed that this fear could have been heightened. But oh, I was so wrong. Imagine what this thing would look like sitting there, listening from below my mattress, hoping to catch the slightest hint that I was awake. Imagine then turned into reality. It began to touch the wooden slats which my mattress sat on. It seemed to caress them carefully, running what I imagined to be fingers and hands across the surface of the wood. Fuck. Then with great force it prodded angrily between the two slats and into the mattress. Even through the padding, it felt as though someone had viciously stuck their fingers into my side. I let out an almighty cry, and the wheezing, shaking, moving thing in the bunk below replied in kind by violently vibrating the bunk as it had done the night before. Small flakes of Small flakes of paint powdered onto my blanket from the wall as the frame of the bed scraped along it, back and forth. Once again I was bathed in light, and there stood my mother, loving and caring as she was, with a comforting hug and calming words which eventually subdued my hysteria. Of course she asked what was wrong, but I could not say. I dared not say. I simply said one word over and over and over again. Nightmare. The pattern of events continued for weeks, if not months. Night after night I'd awaken to the sound of rustling sheets. Each time I would scream so as not to provide this abomination with time to prod and feel for me. With each cry, the bed would shake violently, stopping with the arrival of my mother, who would spend the rest of the night in the bottom bunk, unaware of the sinister force torturing her son nightly. Along the way, I managed to feign illness a few times and come up with other less than truthful reasons for sleeping in my parents' bed. More often than not, I'd be alone for the first few hours of each night in that place, the room where the light from outside did not sit right, alone with that thing. With time, you could become desensitized to almost anything, no matter how horrific. I had come to realize that for whatever reason, the thing could not harm me when my mother was present. I'm sure the same could be said for my father, but as long as he was, waking him from sleep was damn near impossible. After a few months, I'd grown accustomed to my nightly visitor. Don't mistake this for some unearthly friendship. I detested the thing. I still feared it greatly, as I could almost sense its desires and its personality, if you could even call it that, one filled with a perverted and twisted hatred, yet longing for me, of perhaps all things. My greatest fears were realized in the winter. Days grew short, and longer nights provided this wretch with more opportunities. It was a difficult time for my family. My grandmother, a wonderfully kind and gentle woman, had deteriorated greatly since the death of my grandfather. My mother was trying her best to keep her in the community as long as possible. However, dementia is a cruel, degenerative disease, robbing a person of their memories one day at a time. Soon she recognized none of us, and it became clear that she would need to be moved from her house to a nursing home. Before she could be moved, my grandmother had a particularly difficult few nights, and my mother decided she would stay with her. As much as I loved my grandmother, and felt nothing but anguish at her illness, to this day I feel guilty that my first thoughts were not of her, but of what my nightly visitor may do should it become aware of my mother's absence, her presence being the one thing I was sure was protecting me from the full horror of this thing's reach. I rushed home from school that day and immediately wrenched the bed sheets and mattress from the lower bunk, removing all the slats and placing an old desk, chest of drawers, and some chairs which we kept in a cupboard where the bottom bunk used to be. Told my father I was making an office, which he found adorable, but I'd be damned if I would give that thing a place to sleep one night. As darkness approached, I lay there knowing my mother was not in the house. I did not know what to do. My only impulse was to sneak into her jewelry box and take a small family crucifix, which I'd seen there before. While my family was not very religious, at that age I still believed in God and hoped that somehow this would protect me. Although fearful and anxious while gripping the crucifix under my pillow tightly in one hand, sleep eventually came and I drifted off to dream. I hoped that I would awaken in the morning without incidents. However, that night was the most terrifying of all. I slowly woke up gradually. The room was once again dark. As my eyes adjusted, I could gradually make out the window and the door and the walls, some toys on a shelf, and even this day, I shudder to think of it, for there was no noise, no rustling of the sheets, no movement at all. The room felt lifeless, but not empty. The nightly visitor, that unwelcome, wheezing, hate-filled thing which had terrorized me night after night, was not the bottom bunk. It was in my bed. I opened my mouth to scream, but nothing came out. Utter terror had shaken the very sound from my voice. I lay motionless. I could not scream. I did not want to let it know I was awake. I had not yet seen it. I could only feel it. It was obscured under my blanket. I could see its outline. I could feel its presence, but I dared not look. The weight of it pressed down on top of me, a sensation I'll never forget. When I say that hours passed, I don't exaggerate. Laying there motionless in the darkness, I was every bit a scared and frightened young boy. If it had been during the summer months, it would have been light by then, but the grasp of winter is long and unrelenting, and I knew it would be hours before sunrise, a sunrise which I yearned for. I was a timid child by nature, but I was reaching a breaking point, a moment where I could wait no more, where I could survive under this intimately deviant abomination no longer. Fear can sometimes wear you out, make you threadbare, a shell of nerves, leaving only the slightest trace of you behind. I had to get out of that bed. Then I remembered the crucifix. My hand still lay underneath the pillow, but it was empty. I slowly moved my wrist around to find it, minimizing as best I could the sound of vibrations caused, but it could not be found. I neither knocked it off the top bunk, or it had, I could not bear to think of it, been taken from my hand. Without the crucifix, I lost any sense of hope. Even at such a young age, you can be acutely aware of what death is, and intensely frightened of it. I knew I was going to die in that bed if I lay there, dormant, passive, doing nothing. I had to leave that room behind, but how? Should I leap up from the bed and hope I make it to the door? What if it's faster than me? Or should I slowly slip out of that top bunk, hoping to not disturb my uncanny bedfellow? Realizing it had not stirred when I began moving, I tried to find the crucifix. Realizing that it had not stirred when I moved, trying to find the crucifix, I began to have the strangest of thoughts. What if it was asleep? It hadn't so much as breathed since I'd woken up. Perhaps it was resting, believing that it finally got me, that I was finally in its grasp. Perhaps it was just toying with me. After all, it had been doing that for countless nights. And now, with me under it, pinned against my mattress with no mother to protect me, maybe it was holding off, savoring its victory until the last possible moment, like a wild predator savoring its prey. I tried to breathe as shallowly as possible, and mustering every ounce of courage I could, I reached over with my right hand and began to peel the blanket off me. What I found under those covers almost stopped my heart. I didn't see it, but as my hand moved the blanket, it brushed against something smooth and cold, something which felt unmistakably like a gaunt hand. I held my breath in terror, as I was sure it must have known that I was awake. Nothing. It didn't stir. It felt dead. It didn't stir. It felt dead. After a few moments, I placed my hand carefully further down the blanket and felt a thin, poorly formed forearm. My confidence and twisted sense of curiosity grew as I moved down to a disproportionately larger bicep muscle. The arm was outstretched, lying across my chest, with the hand resting on my left shoulder as if it had grabbed me in my sleep. I realized that I would have to move this cadaverous appendage if I even so much as hoped to escape its grasp. Okay, for some reason, the feeling of torn, ragged clothing on the shoulder of this nighttime invader stopped me in my tracks. Fear once again swelled in my stomach and in my chest as I recoiled my hand in disgust at the touch of strangled, oily hair. I could not bring myself to touch its face, although I wonder to this very day what it would have felt like. Dear God, it moved. It moved. It was subtle, but its grip on my shoulder and across my body tightened. No tears came, but God, how I wanted to cry. As its hand and arm slowly coiled around me, my right leg brushed against the cool wall which the bed lay against. Of all that happened to me in that room, this was the strangest. I realized that this clutching, rancid thing which drew great delight from violating a young boy's bed was not entirely on top of me. It was sticking out from the wall like a spider striking from its lair. Suddenly its grip moved from a slow tightening to a sudden squeeze. It pulled and clawed at my clothes as if frightened that the opportunity would pass. I fought against it, but its emaciated arm was too strong for me. Its head rose up, writhing and contorting under the blanket. I now realized where it was taking me, into the wall. I fought for my life. I cried. Suddenly my voice returned to me, yelling, screaming, but no one came. Then I realized I was so eager to suddenly strike. Why, this thing had to have me now. Through my window, that window which seemed to represent so much malice from the outside, streaked hope, the first rays of sunshine. I struggled further, knowing that if I could just hold on, it would soon be gone. As I fought for my life, the unearthly parasite shifted slowly, pulling itself up my chest, its head now poking from under the blanket, wheezing, coughing, and rasping. I don't remember its features. I simply remember its breath against my face, foul and cold as ice. As the sun broke over the horizon, that dark place, that suffocating room of contempt, was washed, bathed in sunlight. I passed out as its scrawny fingers encircled my neck, squeezing the life from me. I woke to my father offering to make me some breakfast, a wonderful sight indeed. I had survived the most horrible experience of my life until then, and now I moved the bed away from the wall, leaving behind the furniture I believed would stop that thing from taking a bed. Little did I think it would try to take mine and me. Weeks passed without incident, but on one cold, frostbitten night, I woke to the sound of the furniture where the bunk beds used to be vibrating violently. In a moment it passed. I lay there, sure I could hear a distant wheezing coming from deep within the wall, finally fading into the distance. I've never told anybody this story before. To this day I still break out in a cold sweat at the sound of bed sheets rustling in the night, or a wheeze brought on by a common cold, and I certainly never sleep with my bed against the wall. Call it superstition if you will, but as I said, I I can't discount conventional explanations such as sleep paralysis, hallucination, or that of an overactive imagination. But what I can say is this. The following year, I was given a larger room on the other side of the house, and my parents took this strangely suffocating, elongated place as their bedroom. They said they didn't need a large room, just one big enough on the bed. Ugh, fuck me. Just one big enough for a bed and a few things. They lasted 10 days. We moved on the 11th. So that was bedtime. I like that little story. It's a good one. Do you want to stay the night? Do you want to stay the night? Alright, here's a quickie. White with red. A man went into a hotel and walked up to the front desk to check in. The woman at the desk gave him his key, and told him that on the way to his room, there was a door with no number that was locked, and no one was allowed in there. Especially no one should look inside the room under any circumstances. So he followed the instructions of the woman at the desk, going straight to his room, going to bed. Next night, his curiosity would not leave him alone about this no-number room. He walked down the hall to the door and tried the handle. Sure enough, it was locked. He bent down and looked through the wide keyhole. Cold air passed through it, chilling his eye. What he saw was a hotel bedroom like his, and on the counter... Oh, and in the corner was a woman whose skin was completely white. She was leaning her head against a wall, facing away from the door. He stared in confusion for a while. He almost knocked on the door, out of curiosity, but then decided not to. This disinclination saved his life. He crept away from the door and walked back to his room. The next day, he returned to the door and looked through the wide keyhole. This time, all he saw was redness. He couldn't make anything out besides a distinct red color, unmoving. Perhaps the inhabitants of the room knew he was staying the night before and blocked the keyhole with something red. Blocked the keyhole with something red. At this point, he decided to consult the woman at the front desk for information. She sighed and says, "Did you look through the keyhole?" The man told her that he had, and she said, "Well, might as well tell you the story. A long time ago, a man murdered his wife in that room, and her ghost haunts it. But these people weren't ordinary. They were white all over, except their eyes, which were red." Oh, I just got that. That's fucked. No thanks. I'll pass. Yeah, I'll pass. What the fuck? Alright. I'm gonna get a couple more little quickies. A goodie, but a quickie. Just gonna queue up, blow up and run away, and I tell you every day that I love you. I know it's a lie, so baby don't you cry when I say I love you. You act like such a twat, and your friends are a bunch of thoughts, but I still love you. Don't be a stupid bitch, being a piece of shit, 'cause I won't ever say I love you. Oh, fuck. I can't really find anything short, so... Okay. Okay. Erica uses the same bus route every day to her college and the way back. Every day she saw an old lady waiting for the bus with a sad expression on her face. Once, due to a late night party, Erica was late and passing by that bus stop. She once again saw the old lady alone in the dark with tears in her eyes. She felt like she was waiting for someone. Erica went and sat beside her and asked why it is she's always alone and weeping. The old lady didn't answer. She again asked, did she have any children? The old lady said she has 2 sons. Erica got up furious and said, then where are your 2 sons now, when you need them the most? She then sadly replied that they'd never come to see her. They didn't even come to my funeral. Fuck. Alright, that's the end of this little meme. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Peace out. What up, everybody? Now that my voice is a little less fucked, I'm gonna read some more stories. So, without further ado, here's a creepypasta by the name of Psychosis. So let me just cue it up real quick. It says, this is a brief description. This one is long, but definitely worth the read. Sunday. I'm not sure why I'm writing this down on paper rather than on my computer. I guess I've just noticed some odd things. It's not that I don't trust the computer, I just need to organize my thoughts. I need to get down all the details somewhere objective, somewhere I know that what I write can't be deleted or altered or changed. Not that that's happened, it's just everything blurs together here, and the fog of memory lends a strange cast to things. I'm starting to feel cramped in this small apartment. Maybe that's the problem. I just had to go and choose the cheapest apartment, the only one in the basement. The lack of windows down here makes day and night seem to slip by seamlessly. I haven't been out in a few days because I've been working on this programming project intensively. I suppose I just wanted to get it done. Hours of sitting and staring at a monitor can make anyone feel strange. I don't know, but I don't think that's it. I'm not sure when I first started to feel like something was odd. I can't even define what it is. Maybe I just haven't talked to anyone in a while. That's the first thing that crept up on me. Everyone I normally talk to online while I program has been idle, or they've simply not logged on at all. My instant messages go unanswered. The last email I got from anybody was a friend saying he'd talk to me when he got back from the store. And that was yesterday. I called with my cell phone, but the reception's terrible down here. Yeah, that's it. I just need to call somebody. I'm gonna go outside. Wow, that didn't work so well. As the tingle of fear fades, I'm feeling a little ridiculous for being scared at all. I looked in the mirror before I went out, but I hadn't shaved the 2-day stubble I'd grown. I figured I was just going out for a quick cell call. I did change my shirt though, because it was lunchtime, and I guessed that I'd run into at least one person I knew. That didn't end up happening. I wish it did. When I went out, I opened the door to my apartment slowly. A small feeling of apprehension had somehow lodged itself in me, for some indefinable reason. I chalked it up to not having spoken to anyone but myself for a day or two. I peered down the dingy gray hallway, made dingier by the fact that it was a basement hallway. On one end, a large metal door led to the building's furnace room. It was locked, of course. 2 dreary soda machines stood by it. I bought a soda from one the first day I moved in, but it had a 2-year-old expiration date. I'm fairly sure nobody knows those machines are even down here, or my cheap landlady just doesn't care to get them restocked. I closed my door softly and walked the other direction, taking care not to make a sound. I have no idea why I chose to do that, but it was fun giving in to the strange impulse not to break the droning hum of the soda machines, at least for a moment. I got to the stairwell, took the stairs up to the building's front door. I looked through the heavy door's small square window and received quite the shock. It was definitely not lunchtime. City gloom hung over the dark street outside, and the traffic lights at the intersection in the distance blinked yellow. Dim clouds, purple and black from the glow of the city, hung overhead. Nothing moved, save the few sidewalk trees that shifted in the wind. I remember shivering, though it wasn't cold. Maybe it was the wind outside. I could vaguely hear it through the heavy metal door, and I knew it was that unique kind of late-night wind, the kind that was constant, cold and quiet, save for the rhythmic music it made as it passed through countless unseen tree leaves. I decided not to go outside. Instead, I lifted my cell phone to the door's little window and checked the signal meter. The bars filled up with the meter, and I smiled. Time to hear someone else's voice, I remember thinking, relieved. It was such a strange thing to be afraid of nothing. I shook my head, laughing at myself silently. I hit speed dial for my best friend Amy's number and held the phone up to my ear. It rang once, but then it stopped. Nothing happened. I listened to silence for a good 20 seconds, then hung up. It looked at the signal meter again, still full. I went to dial her number again, but then my phone rang in my hand, startling me. I put it up to my ear. "Hello?" I asked, immediately fighting down a small shock, yet hearing the first spoken voice in days, even if it was my own. I'd gotten used to the droning hum of the building's inner workings, my computer and the soda machines in the hallway. There was no response to my greeting at first, but then, finally, a voice came. "Hey," said a clear male voice, obviously of college age, like me. "Who's this?" "John," I replied, confused. "Oh, sorry, wrong number," he replied, then hung up. I lowered the phone slowly and leaned against the thick brick wall of the stairwell. That was strange. I looked at my received call list, but the number was unfamiliar. Before I could think on it further, the phone rang loudly, shocking me yet again. This time I looked at the caller before I answered. Another unfamiliar number. This time I held the phone up to my ear but said nothing. I heard nothing but the general background noise of a phone. Then a familiar voice broke my attention. "John?" was a single word in Amy's voice. I breathed a sigh of relief. "Hey, it's you," I replied. "Who else would it be?" she responded. "Oh, the number. I'm at a party on 7th Street. My phone died just as you called me. This is someone else's phone, obviously." "Oh, okay," I said. "Where are you?" she asked. My eyes glanced over the drab whitewashed cylinder block walls and the heavy metal door with its small window. "Yeah, my building," I sighed. "Just feeling cooped up. I didn't realize it was so late." "You should come here," she said, laughing. "Nah, I don't feel like looking for some strange place by myself in the middle of the night," I said, looking out the window at the silent, windy street that secretly scared me just a tiny bit. "I think I'm going to keep working or go to bed." "Nonsense," she replied. "I can come get you. Your building is close to 7th Street, right?" "How drunk are you?" I asked lightheartedly. "You know where I live." "Oh, of course," she said abruptly. "Guess I can't get there by walking, huh?" "You could if you wanted to waste a half an hour," I told her. "Right," she said. "Okay, have to go. Good luck with your work." I lowered the phone once more, looking at the numbers flash as the call ended. Then the droning silence suddenly reasserted itself in my ears. The two strange calls in the eerie street outside just drove home my loneliness in this empty stairwell. Perhaps from having seen one too many scary movies, I had the sudden inexplicable idea that something could look in the door's window and see me, some sort of horrible entity that hovered at the edge of loneliness, just waiting to creep out on unsuspecting people that strayed too far from other human beings. I knew the fear was irrational, but nobody else was around. So I jumped down the stairs, ran down the hallway into my room, closed the door as swiftly as I could while staying silent. Like I said, I feel a little ridiculous for being scared of nothing, and the fear is already faded. Yeah. Writing this down helps a lot. It makes me realize that nothing is wrong. It filters out half-formed thoughts and fears and leaves only cold, hard facts. It's late. I got a call from a wrong number. And Amy's phone died, so she called me back from another number. Nothing strange is happening. Still, something a little bit off about the conversation. I know it could have just been the alcohol she'd had. Or was it even her that seemed off to me? Or was it? Yes, that was it. I didn't realize it until this moment, writing these thoughts down. I knew writing things down would help. She said she was at a party, but I only heard silence in the background. Of course, that doesn't mean anything in particular, as she could have just gone outside to make the call. No, that couldn't be it either. I didn't hear the wind. I need to see if the wind is still blowing. Hey everybody, it's your boy Corey Barker, and we're back at it again with another section of Psychosis. It's a long-ass story, but we can plug through it. So, okay, Monday. I forgot to finish writing last night. I'm not sure what I expected to see when I ran up the stairwell and looked out the heavy door's metal window. I feel ridiculous. Last night's fear seems hazy and unreasonable to me now. Can't wait to go out into the sunlight. I'm gonna check my email, shave, shower, get out of here. Wait, I think I heard something. It was thunder. That whole sunlight and fresh air thing didn't happen. I went out to the stairwell and up the stairs only to find disappointment. The heavy metal door's little window showed only flowing water as torrential rain slammed against it. Only a very dim, gloomy light filtered in through the rain. But at least I knew it was daytime, even if it was a gray, sickly wet day. I tried looking out the window, waiting for lightning to illuminate the gloom, but the rain was too heavy and I couldn't make out anything more than vague, weird shapes moving at all angles in the waves washing down the window. Disappointed, I turned around, but I didn't want to go back to my room. Instead, I wandered further up the stairs, past the first floor and the second. The stairs ended at the third floor, the highest floor in the building. I looked through the glass that ran up the outer wall of the stairwell, but it was that warped, thick kind that scatters light. Not that there's much to see through the rain to begin with. I opened the stairwell door and wandered down the hallway. It was the 10 or so thick wooden doors, painted blue a long time ago, were all closed. I listened as I walked, but it was the middle of the day, so I wasn't surprised that I heard nothing but the rain outside. As I stood there in the dim hallway listening to the rain, I had the strange fleeting impression that the doors were standing like silent granite monoliths erected by some ancient forgotten civilization for some unfathomable guardian purpose. Lightning flashed, and I could have sworn that, for just a moment, the old grainy blue wood looked just like rough stone. I laughed at myself for letting my imagination get the best of me. But then it occurred to me that the dim gloom and lightning must mean there was a window somewhere in the hallway. A vague memory surfaced, and I suddenly recalled that the third floor had an alcove and an inset window halfway down the floor's hallway. Excited to look out into the rain and possibly see another human being, I quickly walked over to the alcove, finding the large, thin glass window. Rain washed down it, as with the front door's window, but I could open this one. I reached a hand out to slide it open, but hesitated. I had the strangest feeling that if I opened it, I would see something absolutely horrifying on the other side. Everything's been so odd lately, so I came up with a plan. I came back here to get what I needed. I don't seriously think anything will come of it, but I'm bored, it's raining, and I'm going stir crazy. I came back to get my webcam. The cord isn't nearly long enough to reach the third floor by any means, so instead I'm going to hide it between the two soda machines in the dark end of the basement, hallway, run the wire along the wall and under my door, and put black duct tape over the wire so as to blend it in with the black plastic strips that runs along the base of the hallway walls. I know this is silly, but I don't have anything really better to do. Well, nothing happened. I propped open the hallway to stairwell door, steeled myself, then flung the heavy front door wide open and ran like hell down the stairs to my room and slammed the door. I watched the webcam on my computer intently, seeing the hallway outside my door and most of the stairwell. I'm watching it right now. I don't see anything interesting. I just wish the camera's position was different so that I could see out the front door. Hey, somebody's online. I got out an older, less functional webcam that I had in my closet to video chat with my friend online. I couldn't really explain to him why I wanted to video chat, but it felt good to see another person's face. He couldn't talk very long. We didn't talk about anything meaningful, but I feel much better now. My strange fear is almost past. I would feel completely better, but there was something odd about our conversation. I know that I've said everything has seemed odd, but still, he's very vague in his responses. I don't recall one specific thing he said, no particular names or places or event, but he did ask for my email address to keep in touch. Wait, I just got an email. I'm about to go out. I just got an email from Amy that asked me to meet her for dinner at the place we usually go to. I do love pizza, and I've been just eating random food from my poorly stocked fridge for days, so I can't wait. Again, I do feel ridiculous about the odd couple of days I've been having. I should destroy this journal when I get back. Oh, another email. Oh my God. I almost left the email and opened the door. I almost opened the door, but I read the email first. It's from a friend I hadn't heard from in a long time, and it was sent to a huge number of emails. That must have been every person he had saved in his address list. It had no subject, and it simply said, "Seen with your own eyes. Don't trust them, they." The hell is that supposed to mean? The words shock me, and I keep going over and over them. Is it a desperate email just sent as something happened? The words are obviously cut off without finishing. Any other day I would have dismissed this as spam from a computer virus or something, but the words, "seen with your own eyes," I can't help but read over this journal and think back on the last few days and realize that I have not seen another person with my own eyes or talked to another person face to face. The webcam conversation with my friend was so strange, so vague, so eerie now that I think about it. Was it eerie? Or is it the fear clouding my memory? My mind toys with the progression of events I've written here, pointing out that I have not been presented with one single fact that I did not specifically give out unsuspectingly. The random wrong number that got my name and the subsequent strange return call from Amy, the friend that asked for my email address. I messaged him first when I saw him online, and then I got my first email a few minutes after that conversation. Oh my God. That phone call with Amy. I said over the phone, I said that I was within a half an hour's walk of 7th Street. They know I'm near there. What if they're trying to find me? Where is everyone else? Why haven't I seen or heard anyone else in days? No, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. I need to calm down. This madness needs to end. I don't know what to think. I ran about my apartment, furiously holding my cell phone up to every corner to see if I got signal enough through the heavy walls. Finally, in the tiny bathroom, near one ceiling corner, I got a single bar. Holding my phone there, I sent a text message to every number in my list. Not wanting to betray anything about my unfounded fears, I simply sent, "You seen anyone face to face lately?" At that point, I just wanted my reply back. Any reply back. I didn't care what the reply was or if I embarrassed myself. Tried to call someone a few times, but I couldn't get my head up high enough. And if I brought my cell phone down even an inch, it lost signal. Then I remembered the computer and rushed over to it, instant messaging everyone online. Most were idle or away from their computer. Nobody responded. My messages grew more frequent, and I started telling people where I was and to stop by in person for a host of barely passable reasons. I didn't care about anything at that point. I just needed to see another person. I also tore apart my apartment looking for something that I might have missed, some way to contact another human being without opening the door. I know it's crazy. I know it's unfounded, but what if? I just needed to be sure. I taped the phone to the ceiling in case. Fuck, Metro Road. Alright. Another section. Friday. Well, at least I think it's Friday. I broke everything electronic, smashed my computer to pieces. Every single thing on there could have been accessed by network access or worse, altered. I'm a programmer. I know. Every little piece of information I gave out since it started, my name, my email, my location, none of it came back from outside until I gave it out. I've been going over and over what I wrote. I've been pacing back and forth, alternating between stark terror and overpowering disbelief. Sometimes I'm certain some phantom entity is dead set on the simple goal of getting me to go outside. Back to the beginning with the phone call from Amy. She was effectively asking me to open the door and go outside. I keep running it through in my head. One point of view says I've acted like a madman, and all of this is extreme convergence of possibility. Never going outside at the right times by pure luck. Never seeing another person by pure chance. Getting a random nonsense email from some computer virus at just the right time. The other point of view says that extreme convergence of probability is the reason that whatever is out there hasn't gotten me already. I keep thinking, I never opened the window on the 3rd floor. Never opened the front door until that incredibly stupid stunt with the hidden camera, after which I ran straight into my room and slammed the door. I haven't opened my own solid door since I flung open the front door of the building. Whatever's out there, if anything's out there, it never made an appearance in the building before I opened the front door. Maybe the reason it wasn't in the building was that it was elsewhere, getting everyone else. And then it waited until I betrayed my existence by trying to call Amy, a call which didn't work, until it called me and asked me my name. Terror literally overwhelmed me every time I try to fit the pieces of this nightmare together. That email. Short. Cut off. Was it from someone trying to get word out? Some friendly voice desperately trying to warn me before he came. Seen with my own eyes. Don't trust them. Exactly what I've been so suspicious of. It could have masterful control of all things electronic, practicing its insidious deception to trick me into coming outside. Why can't it get in? It knocked on the door. It must have some solid presence. The door, the image of those doors in the upper hallways as guardian monoliths, flashes back in my mind every time I trace this path of thoughts. If there is some phantom entity trying to get me to go outside, maybe it can't get through doors. I keep thinking back over the books I've read and movies I've seen, trying to generate some explanation for this. Doors have always been such intense focus of human imagination. Always seem as as wards of portals of special importance. Perhaps the door's just too thick. I know I couldn't bash through any of the doors in this building, let alone the heavy basement ones. Aside from that, the real question is, why does it even want me? If it just wanted to kill me, it could do it any number of ways, including just waiting until I starved to death. What if it doesn't want to kill me? What if it has some far more horrific fate in store for me? God, what can I do to escape this nightmare? A knock on the door. I told the people on the other side of the door, I need a minute to think and I'll come out. I'm really just writing this down so I can figure out what to do. At least this time I heard their voices. My paranoia, and yes, I recognize I'm being paranoid, has me thinking of all sorts of ways that their voices could be faked electronically. It could be nothing but speakers outside, simulating human voices. Did it really take them 3 days to come talk to me? Amy is supposedly out there along with 2 policemen and a psychiatrist. Maybe it took them 3 days to think of what to say to me. The psychiatrist's claim could be pretty convincing if I decided to think this has all been a crazy misunderstanding and not some entity trying to trick me into opening the door. The psychiatrist had an older voice, authoritarian but still caring. I liked it. I'm desperate just to see someone with my own eyes. He said I have something called cyberpsychosis, and I'm just one of a nationwide epidemic of thousands of people having breakdowns triggered by a suggestive email that got through somehow. I swear he said got through somehow. I think he means spread throughout the country inexplicably, but I'm incredibly suspicious that the entity has slipped up and revealed something. He said I'm part of a wave of emergent behavior that a lot of people are having the same problem with, the same fears, even though we've never communicated. That neatly explains the strange emails about the eyes that I got. I didn't get the original triggering email. I got a descending of it. My friend could have broken down too and tried to warn everyone he knew against his paranoid fears. That's how the problem spreads, the psychiatrists claim. I could have spread it too with my texts and messages online to everybody. I know, one of those people might be melting down right now after being triggered by something I sent them, something they might interpret any way they want. Something like a text saying, "Seen anyone face to face lately?" The psychiatrist told me he didn't want to lose another one, that people like me are intelligent, and that's our downfall. We draw our connections so well that we draw them even when they shouldn't be there. He said it's so easy to get caught up in paranoia in our fast-paced world, a constantly changing place where more and more of our interaction is simulated. I had to give him one thing. It's a great explanation. It neatly explains everything, perfectly explains everything, in fact. I have every reason to shake off this nightmarish fear that something or consciousness or being out there wants me to open the door so it can capture me for some horrible fate worse than death. It'd be foolish, after hearing that explanation, to stay here until I starve to death just to spite the entity that might have gotten everyone else. It'd be foolish to think that after hearing that explanation I might be one of the last people left alive on an empty world, hiding in my secure basement room, spiting some unthinkable deceptive entity just by refusing to be captured. It's a perfect explanation for every single strange thing I've seen or heard, and I have every reason in the world to let all my fears go and open the door. That's exactly why I'm not going to. How can I be sure? How can I know what's real and what's deception? All these damn things with their wires and their signals that originate from some unseen origin. They're not real. I can't be sure. Signals through a camera, faked video, deceptive phone calls, emails, even the television line broken on the floor. How could I possibly know it's real? Just signals, wave, light, the door. It's bashing on the door. It's trying to get in. What insane mechanical contrivance could it be using to stimulate the sound of men attacking the wood so well? At least I'll finally see it with my own eyes. There's nothing left in here for it to deceive me with. I've ripped apart everything else. You can't deceive my eyes, can it? Seen with your own eyes. Don't trust them, Wait, was that desperate message telling me to trust my eyes? Or warning me about my eyes, too? Oh my God. What's the difference between a camera and my eyes? They both turn light into electrical signals. They're the same. I can't be deceived. I have to be sure. Date unknown. I calmly asked for paper and a pen, day in and day out, until they finally gave it to me. Not that it matters. What am I to do? Poke my eyes out? Bandages feel like part of me now. Pain is gone. Figured this will be one of my last chances to write legibly, as without my sight to correct mistakes, my hands will slowly forget the motions involved. This is a sort of self-indulgence, this writing. It's a relic of another time because I'm certain everyone left in the world is dead or something far worse. I sit against the padded wall all day, in and day out. The entity brings me food and water. It masks itself as a kind nurse, as an unsympathetic doctor. I think it knows that my hearing is sharpened considerably now that I live in darkness. It fakes conversations in the hallways on the off chance I might overhear. One of the nurses talks about having a baby soon. One of the doctors lost his wife in a car accident. None of it matters. None of it's real. None of it gets to me. Not like she does. That's the worst part. The part I almost can't handle. The thing comes to me, masquerading as Amy. Its recreation is perfect. It sounds exactly like Amy, feels exactly like her. It even produces a reasonable facsimile of tears that it makes me feel on its lifelike cheeks. When it first dragged me here, it told me all the things I wanted to hear. It told me that she loved me, that she had always loved me, that it didn't understand why I did this, that we could still have a life together if only I would stop insisting I was being deceived. It wanted me to believe it, so it needed me to believe that she was real. I almost fell for it. I really did. I doubted myself for the longest of times. In the end, though, it was all too perfect, too flawless, and too real. The false Amy used to come every day, and then every week, and stopped coming altogether. But I don't think the entity will give up. I think the waiting game is just another one of its gambits. I'll resist it for the rest of my life if I have to. I don't know what happened to the rest of the world, but I do know that this thing needs me to fall for its deceptions. If it needs that, then maybe, just maybe, I am a thorn in its agenda. Maybe Amy is still alive out there somewhere, kept alive only by my will to resist the deceiver. I hold on to that hope, rocking back and forth in my cell to pass the time. I'll never give in. I will never break. I am a hero. The doctor read the paper the patient had scribbled on. It was very readable, written in the shaky script of one who could not see. He wanted to smile at the man's steadfast resolve, a reminder of the human will to survive, but he knew that the patient was completely delusional. After all, a sane man would have fallen for the deception long ago. The doctor wanted to smile. He wanted to whisper words of encouragement to this man. He wanted to scream, but the nerve filaments wrapped around his head and into his eyes made him do otherwise. His body walked into the cell like a puppet. It told the patient once more that he was wrong and that there was nobody trying to deceive him. Psychosis. That's the end of Psychosis. What a long fucking read. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed me reading this, leave a like. I'll leave a link in the description down below. If you guys want me to do more of these, just let me know in the comments section, and I'll see you again in the next video. Peace the fuck out.